Welcome to Drunk on Software. We're here at the QCon conference in San Francisco. We've got, of course, James Ward, and we're here with Bruce Eckel today.
So Bruce is actually our designated director. So we're having a nice half of Bison and Bruce.
This is cranberry and soda.
Cranberry and soda.
But it looks like a real grown-up drink.
You look official.
Yeah.
James and Bruce's book has just come out.
Yeah.
When we post this, it will just come out.
As soon as I get that website up. Yeah.
It's titled First Steps in Flex, which is good because Flex is taking off from everything I can tell. So I'm sure there's plenty of people that are looking to how to get started. So you guys
We're going to take those first few steps.
You guys want to share a few things about the book?
Well, I'd say one of the most interesting things about the book is that it's thin, and we actually worked really hard to make it thin, and people who have seen previous books of mine know that they tend to be thick, and we wanted something that would be like good bathroom reading. So like here's an example. Here's Item Renderer's chapter is 2.5 pages long. So what we decided to do was just put just enough in there to get the idea across, and we made the examples as small as we could so they all like fit on a page and you could stare at them until you understood them and you wouldn't get overwhelmed.
And even type them in yourself. That's really important. We're not allowing people to download the code because we really want people to actually type this in so they really learn.
Right, and also you get the experience of using Flex Filter that way and kind of understand that, yes, there's a lot of MXML, which means there are angle brackets, but it's not as bad as all that, and you kind of learn that. Some people complain about that. They go, oh, I can't deal with a language that uses XML, which I sympathize with, but the benefits that you get, the leverage that you get with this, I mean, normally XML is like lots of extra noise, but here MXML actually condenses the sorts of things that you want to do. So it's a plus.
Yeah, the number of lines of code that you save through MXML is pretty significant for procedural code.
And for that reason, we preferred it in most cases because it kept our examples really small.
We do have a great chapter on ActionScript though as well.
We do, and that's that one kind of introduces the basic ideas of ActionScript, and that's fairly early in the book. But the idea is that because there are a lot of thick Flex books out there, which is fine, but to get started, it's nice to have something that's not intimidating.
So if somebody took it into the bathroom and tried to cover, what kind of application could they cut out and go for their first application?
Well, I don't know, what do you think?
They can build anything.
Yeah.
You can do the native Flash drawing stuff that's in there. Using simple components like data grids. So a lot of stuff is covered. It's just it's really a starting point, because I think at least the way that I learned is I just want to get the basics, and then I'm going to go just read the documentation, the AS docs. If I want to know how a data grid, how you set alternating row colors, that's not in this book. You go to the AS docs to find that.
Yeah. But this gives you enough of a hook into it to say, yeah, I can do that. And we wanted to cover enough topics where you felt like, oh yeah, this is how you kind of grab something and tune it up and adjust it and make it do what you want without giving you, like burying you under details for a particular thing and thus making it large. But in fact, I don't know if you can see the cover. There we go. You can see the cover, and we've got that's a picture of someone going over a chasm.
Isn't that Ajax?
Yeah, it is. That's actually James going over a chasm, and so it looks kind of scary. But there are rails on it, and what we're trying to do is get you across that initial chasm, even though it can look scary. This book will get you there.
So sometimes the programming feels like you're just going to plummet to your death. And we really want people to be comfortable to take those first few steps, because once you get out there on the bridge, it's not too bad.
Where do they get the book?
Right now,
to be determined?
No, it's
First Steps in Flex.
right. Or
So you go there and there's a Google group that currently people can sign up for to be notified when the book is actually available for purchase. Available in bulk for purchase today, and then we will have online ordering in the near future.
For individual copies. See the link below this video.
That's right down here. Right.
Yeah, there.
That's the link.
Excellent. I'm excited to hand it out to the people I'm attempting to bring onto the
To convert.
Flex train.
That's right.
In terms of the Flex train, one of the things that really motivated me to take a look at it was, I think it was early 2007, you wrote an article where it's called Hybridizing Java.
Yes.
As we sit here at QCon, I think Java Flex is a week or two away from being released. Has your opinion of needing something outside of Java I know the article said it's a pretty natural fit, I tend to agree, but it is something outside of the stack provided in Java. Has your opinion changed at all with Java Flex coming and some of the other things in the last 2 years?
No, it hasn't. What I think is really unfortunate is that Sun didn't kind of reach out, grab the hand extended by Adobe, and say, "Sure, we'll make that connection and make it really easy for Java programmers to do." Because 2 years ago and earlier, that would have meant that you would have had the combination of the two. It's possible to do it now. I mean, there are Java AMF bridges, and so it's actually not that hard to do.
Yeah.
But I think Sun could have used its resources a lot better by not bothering with JavaFX. They could continue. One of the problems with JavaFX is it's pulled resources away from Swing, and a lot of people who've been depending on Swing are losing out because of that. And I don't know, maybe people will like JavaFX, but it just seems like in the meantime, Flex has continued to gain a lot of momentum and improve a lot more than probably what we might see with JavaFX, and it's just it's an unfortunate use of resources that could have been used better. I think.
Flex really is a pretty natural extension of Java when you're developing. I mean,
Absolutely.
You're deploying in Tomcat or some serverless container with their data services. You're using Eclipse as the IDE. I mean, and with FX, the interesting thing is you're going to learn a new scripting language anyway. So learning an action script, you got to see that as a wash. So the only real distinction is you're not in the JVM for the client side. Is the only distinction I got with it. For me, that wasn't enough to dissuade me.
Well, right. And
There's also a bit of a different programming model that you have to learn.
But I would argue that's why Adobe has a better understanding of the programming model we need for user interface.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the other problem is Sun never has given us what we needed for it. We're living in the Java stack, so.
AWT, Swing, SWT.
Yeah. I was going to try and not go down the list, but yeah. I mean, I've lived more of the web things and JSFs and many MVC frameworks that you didn't really have components. So jumping into Flex, where 95% of what I need to build a business application is just there. It's like, whoa, so.
We're all sort of in agreement on that. I think what's really important is that Flex was designed to be a language to build user interfaces, and Java wasn't actually designed that way. I mean, if you know the history of Java, the AWT was designed and implemented in a month when they said, I guess we also need user interface stuff.
Yeah.
And you could tell how bad AWT was, and then they started working on Swing, and Swing kind of swung to the other extreme where you have lots of stuff, and it's really deep, and it's pretty complex when, if you're not using the things exactly the way they're supposed to be using it, you drop down into it a little bit, it gets complicated pretty fast. So maybe JavaFX will help that. I don't know, but the track record has not been good, and it's still not. I mean, the language has never supported properties and events, and I don't know. Does JavaFX support properties and events?
I don't really know.
Oh, okay.
Data binding is good.
Interesting. Okay.
You touched on this kind of in the, when we were talking about the book, but another big thing of design is the XML is there for a reason, and that's to support tooling. And even if FX works, you know, the first question is the tooling going to be there, even if the language gets to a point where we can develop?
Well, that's always, I think we've heard that a number of times over the years with Java, is that, oh, this language that we're creating is really being created for the tools, but then the tools never really got
Yeah, and they depend on a community where, obviously that's one of the Adobe strengths is
building tools.
Yeah,
and we sell tools, that's how we make money, so they better be good.
Well, and one of the nice things about ActionScript, and I wrote a fairly in-depth article about this, or, well, it wasn't about that topic alone, but I encountered this issue where ActionScript is optionally static typed, and when you're working within Flex Builder, you will typically want to declare types on things because Flex Builder does very useful things with that, you know, code completion and various kinds of error checking and everything. But what's really interesting is if you want to do a piece or a method or something where you're doing dynamic typing, the transition is pretty effortless. It's not like what you have to do in Java, which is suddenly you have to drop into reflection mode, and there's this rather complicated API, which traditionally has been slow. It's faster now, but with ActionScript, you say, okay, well here I need to use dynamic typing just in this little area, and you just do it, and the code looks basically the same, and you get the dynamic typing, but without the pain. And so it's a very nice way to program. You know, you're getting the best of both worlds. So I don't know what, you know, I kind of doubt that, coming from the background that it is, I kind of doubt that Java FX will have something like that. But I don't know. I mean, you know, whoever is interested in it should look at it. I probably won't put much effort into understanding it.
It would be great if it's successful and it can push the other platforms, but it just seems unlikely. History and how long it's taken to get early. So.
Yeah.
Well, you're up to a lot of things as usual, but can you tell us a bit about what you're doing at QCon and your OpenSpace section?
So Floyd asked me to come to this conference and organize the open spaces. And so I gave a brief introduction this morning, and this evening we're going to have a kind of open space section of the conference. When there aren't, well, there are basically not any talks running. There's a couple of other things happening, but it sounds like a fair number of people are going to show up. And so the board is fairly full right now, and so, I mean, I think there's only 2 or 3 spaces left. So I think that will probably come off pretty well.
Do you want to share what the kind of open space style conferences haven't been to?
Good point. Open spaces means that, well, it can kind of look like there's no organization at all because you don't plan ahead on what the talks are going to be. You don't have invited speakers. You just basically, everybody shows up and you have a board and you have some rooms and you have some time slots. And people take post-it notes and they put in various areas and they say, well, I'm interested in having a discussion on this topic. And it's really emphasizing discussion and not lecturing. In fact, it totally says, no, we're not trying to lecture here. We're just trying to have discussions. And so people use post-it notes because sometimes you will discover that 2 topics are similar and you'll merge them, or somebody might say, you know, I'd really like to go to this one, and so can you move them? So typically that's why I use post-its. This time we actually got started writing it directly on the whiteboard, and so we kind of skipped over the post-its, but anyway, it still works.
Cross things
or move them. You know, it's still possible on the whiteboard. It's just not as easy as with the post-it. So what happens is people show up to a talk or a discussion, and the person who's convening it just kind of briefly says, okay, here's what I'd like to talk about, and then a discussion starts. And if you're not interested in a discussion, we have what's called the law of 2 feet, which means that you should get up and go find the discussion that you are interested in.
And really, you should feel obligated to do
Yes.
that because you're really weighing on the conversation if you're not participating.
Exactly. If your energy is low in that topic, then you're kind of bringing everybody else's energy in, and you should go someplace else. And so what I find is that these are people tend to come away from these going, "This was really great," because it's kind of like a structured hallway conversation, or a set of structured hallway conversations that everybody is welcome to join or to lead. And basically the events that I hold now are exclusively open spaces style things when we're having conferences, and people tend to really enjoy these. And what's interesting is that people will come to my events and then they'll go back home, and because they have seen how it works and how simple it is to put together, they will start open spaces events of their own. And then I'll hear back from them later, and they'll say, "Oh, you know, I went back and did this, and it just worked wonderfully, and we're going to do more of them." And it's sometimes people call them unconferences, although not everybody understands that idea. But people do. That's another term that's used for them. And this idea apparently came from villages in Eastern Africa where they would hold discussions and make decisions using this some technique that was like this. So yeah, it's been used to organize conferences up to, like one person has organized conferences up to 2,000 people this way.
Wow.
Yes, and because basically all you do is explain it, and then you step out and you participate, and you don't have to, nobody has to run it. It runs itself, which is why people find it so easy to do. But
You get some really interesting dialogue out of it too. If you haven't attended, they actually are posting sessions on the Java Posse Roundup of 2008's Roundup, and so you can get that virtual experience. Obviously,
So that's an Open Spaces conference run by the Java Posse and Bruce Eckel up in Crested Butte, Colorado, coming up March 2009, I think.
Next one.
it's March 9th through 13th, I think, is the right dates.
Yeah.
Definitely check out those podcasts because you get a real feel. And I was actually at the Roundup, but the sessions I didn't get to go to, I listened and I'm like, oh, I was interested in that.
And me too.
So-
Yeah, I mean, that's when I'm doing that and other things. One of the cool things about it is that I just do a little bit of organization, and then I participate in the conference.
Yeah.
So I get as much out of it as
Usually the organizers off.
usually the organizer has to run around and do things, and they're all stressed out and everything. But for me, it's very relaxing. And at the end of one of those, I go, boy, I could do another one of these next week. And so I, certainly want to do
One,
more.
and I was telling Bruce this the other night that if I look back over all the conferences I've been to and all the conference sessions that I've been to, and
You go to a lot.
and I go to a lot of
But how many
conferences.
sessions do you go to?
I go to some sessions too. But what's interesting is that really things that stick in my memory as being the most, the times when I learned the most in a session was at different open space sessions. So there was one up at Code Jams. Code Jams has a great open spaces part of it. That's coming up in January. You should check that out. Then was actually one on databases. Just found it really interesting conversation. Learned so much in it. And another one.
I was in that one.
Yeah,
and I also learned a lot.
Yeah, it was amazing. And there's just other ones like I remember one up in Crested Butte. It was on concurrency. And it totally changed my whole perspective on concurrency. And it wasn't just because someone was just talking; it was because we were all participating in this discussion.
Yeah, it's amazing what people bring to an open space session, even though they think they don't have anything to offer. They begin to realize, oh, you guys don't understand this. Well, here's the experience I have. And you listen to it, and typically you'll hear stories. And those kind of carry a lot more weight than just somebody telling you, here's how it is.
Parables.
Yes, that's exactly right.
I remember one actually from QCon last year. Eric Evans turned one of his sessions into an open spaces session. And we just had this conversation, and some people were talking about how they're working on the oldest software known to man, which is like in trains. and I just learned so much from that session. It's great that Eric, of course, has been out to Crested Butte for some of the open spaces conferences, so he brought that into his session. And it was really, I remember so much more of it because of the conversation and stories than I would if Eric was just presenting too.
Well, and I think once you go to an Open Spaces conference, it kind of ruins you for regular conferences because you look and when somebody is up in front just giving a talk, you're kind of thinking, I could watch this on my computer. I didn't have to travel all this way and pay for the hotel. If I'm going to do that, it would, I'd rather talk to people. If I'm going to travel, because otherwise we've got the internet to do that.
That's interesting because the only reason I go to conferences is for like this and meeting people in the evenings and I tend to watch the talks after the conference because
now you can.
Sitting in a room, it's like you get kind of bored and you can't fast forward when they
email.
When they get at a lull where you're not as interested.
You can't fast forward.
Well, I mean that's the crucial part, right? Like I just went to a really good talk, but the first 20 minutes really interested me, and then I was kind of uninterested in the last 20 minutes. And
I get really good naps during conference sessions. Actually, really relaxing. I don't know what it is, but having somebody kind of talking away.
It's like being at church. Being the I'm not bringing religion in. It's just drunk on software.
That's right.
Well, I guess we'll put a list of all your upcoming events with this post.
Well, the other thing is, James and I have started doing what we call Flex Jams.
And it's great to bring up.
And that was kind of one of the inspirations for this book, is to have something that would be for people who want structure during the Flex Jam. So the idea of a jam is it's kind of I suppose it's sort of an open space with code. The idea is that everybody moves at a different rate, and when you do a seminar tutorial kind of thing, you go, okay, well, you have an hour to do this. Well, or 15 minutes or whatever. Typically everybody is moving at a different rate, and so is there some way that we can allow you to learn as much as you can at whatever rate that you move? And well, the way to do it is just to let you do whatever you want and move at whatever rate you want, and we're basically there to coach you along and help you, but you don't have to feel like, okay, I'm not going fast enough, or this thing is going way too fast for me and I'm not getting anything out of it. If you only, understand 2 chapters out of the whole book, but you understand them really thoroughly, then you're going to come away with some value. But if you just have had this breakneck coverage of something just to get through the material, then it's not going to be very useful for you because you won't have grasped anything in depth. And to me, understanding something in depth is kind of what's critical.
I just did a session at the Adobe Max conference, which was a lab. So it was a room of 50 people for one of them, 250 people for another one. And everyone has a computer and they're following along. And
trying to follow you.
Trying to follow me.
Which James codes like
he goes fast.
He's on speed.
Yeah, and,
I appreciate it, but
each time I start out and I get 2 lines in, I've got people yelling at me to slow down. So, but at the point we ask the audience, all right, are we going too fast? Are we going too slow? Are we going the right speed? And every single time, it's like the audience is split, 33%, a third for each of those, So it's like too fast for some, too slow for others, and just right for some. And it's like, how can people really
if
learn?
You can even get them to give you feedback, because a lot of times people would be embarrassed to say it's too, in particular, too fast here. That's our profession is all about me being smarter than you or whatever. And so it's really hard to even get people to say that. And so our point is not to leave anybody behind or bore anybody. So the best thing to do is to provide you with the time and the space. And when we've done these, a lot of times what people really need is kind of an official space just to focus on this with people who know what's going on to help them, and then just let them go at their own rate. And people can come and work on their own problems, which they have. People have brought their problems from work and they worked on them, and then they've had us there to help them. Or if you just say, gee, I don't know what I don't know what to work on, then now we have this as a workbook to kind of go through
So pick a chapter and
yeah, pick a chapter, and if it's chapter 1 and you go through it, or if you go, well, I'm interested in this material, and then you can make variations on the theme, and we actually have a list of exercises as well that you can do after you understand the concept. So we will be scheduling those whenever James and I can figure out what our schedule is. And
Get it down to
yeah, that's true. Well,
You guys will have to do one in different.
yeah,
that's true.
Try it down.
Since you're living.
yeah, I think, we've always tried to do them based on demand and how many people are interested in doing them. So, if we get demand for one in Denver or one in Amsterdam or wherever, I'm willing to travel. Berlin.
We want to do one in Berlin,
Right,
so we can see what Berlin is like.
Let us know.
Yeah, that's true. That's the other thing is
They're mobile.
Yeah, they're mobile, and if you live someplace and you can help organize it there, that's very helpful because you know what the local lay of the land is, and so you would know what a good place to have it in, and how to market, how to connect to the community, and where we should go so that we're not accidentally paying hotel fees.
And you have to know where the local camp for coffee is for your town.
Exactly. The local camp for the local bar.
Yeah, they're referring to there's a coffee place in my town which has
The best chai in man.
and the Denver Post says the best coffee in Colorado. So and it's in the little town across the Butte, and so we have our events just right around the corner from it. So if you ever need coffee, you just walk around the corner. Yeah. And actually, we often end up with open spaces spontaneously happening in Camp 4, right? Yeah. So,
You can't stop geeks even when session is
yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us,
Sure,
Bruce.
my pleasure.
I guess we got to do our obligatory cheers.
Mine is gone, so drop on software.
See you next time.
Yeah.